Good morning and welcome to this WIOA webinar. My name is Kirsten Cherry with the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support, and I will be the facilitator and the moderator for today's webinar. Today's topic is connecting with clients and students using Zoom and Remind. Just as a reminder, all participants on the call are in mute mode. Please use the question, comment, or chat box. It can be named different things on your screen, either question, comment, or chat box. For any comments or questions that you might have throughout the presentation, we will be stopping in the middle of the presentation between the two topics, Remind and Zoom, to answer some questions, and then we will answer questions at the end as well. A reminder that this webinar will be recorded. Documents for today's meeting and the recorded webinar can be downloaded via our website at icsps.illinoisstate.edu. It can also be accessed on the Illinois WorkNet website, and that'll be up within 48 hours. You will receive a survey asking you about today's webinar afterwards. Please share with us your experience and any suggestions you might have to help us improve these webinars. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce our presenter today. We have Anita Kerr, am I saying that right? Kerr? With us today, Anita Kerr, excuse me, with the Central Illinois Adult Education Service Center with the Illinois Professional Development Network. Welcome, Anita. We are so excited to hear from you. You want to go to the next slide? And then this is me. My name is Kirsten Cherry. I work for the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support at Illinois State University. And before we get started with Anita, we just wanted to have any attendees kind of tell us where you are located from, where you're working from, where your local area is today. So if you want to go ahead and comment that in the question, comment, or chat box, we would love to hear where everyone is from today. So we have some people from Evanston, Illinois, local area 7, North Riverside, Champaign, Chicago Heights, local area 25, Springfield, Chicago, Cook, St. Clair County, Montgomery, Will County, lots of Chicago and Champaign, McLean, Joliet. All right. Well, welcome everyone. We are so excited that you are able to join us today. And I think we have one more little starter question. If you could go ahead and comment who you work for today, who are your partners, what brings you to this webinar today? Looks like we have Adult Ed, WIOA, Youth, Title I, TAA, Staff to the Board, Bethel Family Resource Center, Title I, Prairie State College, WIOA Program, Howard Area Community College, Metropolitan Family Services, Out of School Youth, DHS Family Community Services, WIOA BEST, Workforce Education, National Farm Workers Job Program. Awesome. All right, well, welcome everyone. Again, we are so excited for you to hear from Anita today. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please continue to comment those in the chat box, and we will answer those in the middle and then at the end. And Anita, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kirsten. I appreciate it. Hopefully you will see the captioning at the top of your screen. This is a first for our attempt on this platform to use captioning. So hopefully that will work well for those of you who will benefit from that. My name's Anita Kerr. I do professional development for adult educators in the state of Illinois, and I'm very glad to be with you today. In this pretty unprecedented time, we're all facing a lot of new challenges, not just our clients and our students, but also ourselves. We have activities to do, families to raise, schoolwork to complete, training to receive and give, obligations to fulfill. Yet the challenges in this climate can make all of this feel very overwhelming. And we know that the clients and students we work with all the time also need support. So do you. So we wanted to start off our webinar today with that message that yes, we are here as professionals to support the people we work for, but also we sometimes need a little bit of support professionally. And that's what we're going to do today, is hopefully give ourselves a couple of tools and some strategies for using those tools that will allow us to make our own lives a little easier and more productive, but also make the lives of our clients and students a little better as well. The goal of today is to work on reaching out and connecting with the people around us. So I do want to throw our minds back to kind of the remember when we used to communicate through work for people with letters, with snail mail, with flip phones. Maybe remember the days when people used to come to you in person into your office and talk to you. Those were the days, right? And also through computer. We have always used email, etc. But now we're in kind of an unprecedented situation where connecting with people and the way we connect with people has really changed, utterly changed. And so what we're going to do today is talk about 2 ways that you can really reach out and connect firmly with the people in your life who need it, and the people that you work with who most need that support. So we have 2 objectives for today. We're going to learn about 2 specific platforms, Remind and Zoom, that are enabling us to connect with clients and students. And then we're also going to talk about some strategies for how to maximize those platform capabilities. If you have some knowledge about those platforms, that's great. Hopefully what we'll do today will give you lots of information you can build on to your previous knowledge. So we're going to start by talking about remind.com. We'll discuss what it is, how we would use it, why you would want to use it. So we'll jump right into this. So what is Remind? Remind is a communication platform that you can use to communicate people via text or email. And the key to Remind is you can do so without giving out your own personal information, right? If you normally send a text to someone, it shows up as coming from your personal phone. Remind allows you to create kind of a dummy system from which you communicate, so it protects your private information. So how does Remind messaging work in general? Well, the key to Remind is that it allows you to message a whole group of people at once. You can build smaller groups within that group to message individually, or you can message an individual participant. All of those options are available, which makes Remind a nice, flexible tool. So how would you start using Remind? Well, it's simple. Remind.com is a website that is free account for these services. You simply need an email address or a phone number to begin setting up your account, and you can do so within a matter of minutes. Once you enter your information, your email, your phone, your name, you'll be prompted to finish setting up your account, and then it'll immediately let you start building groups of participants in whatever way you would like to organize them. So when you click the Create a Class button on the Remind homepage after you've made your account, you will see a screen similar to this. Now, keep in mind, Remind was developed for the K-12 school system. So the language within Remind often will talk about creating a class. And so if you are not working with a group of students, but you're working with a group of clients, just substitute that word class with group in your mind. So you're creating groups of people that you want to organize into one Remind group, okay? So the steps are pretty simple to create a class. You can name your class whatever you want it to be. So you can see I've named mine Reading 2020 for a student group that I'm teaching that semester. But you may name yours the name of your county and the name of your WIOA program, for instance, and then the year, something like that. You can choose that name. You can edit the icon. I've chosen a book for my reading class. You can choose an icon that works for you. You'll see the school option down below where it says not affiliated with a school. That's the option that you're going to want to check. Again, the system was designed for K-12, and so most of the schools that are shown will be K-12 schools. So you can just choose the not affiliated option. And what'll happen when you click that is that class code right above it behind the @ sign will populate automatically. You don't have to create that. The system will create it for you. And it'll usually look pretty similar. It'll be at a couple of letters and numbers jumbled together as a code. You'll click the I will only message people 13 or older button at the bottom, and then you'll hit create. And then you will have generated your first class, and you can start working with it from there. Now, once you've done that, the next step is to add people into that class. And so again, remember, your class may be a group of people who are in the same program or the same system. And so think about your class, whatever you name it, make it something obvious to you. And then you're going to be putting people in that class in one of a couple of ways. You'll see over here, there's a student name column. And again, you can think of that as a client name. And then you can enter their name and their phone or email. That's directly adding people into the system and putting them into your class automatically. That's one option. And you can see that if you have a spreadsheet of names and phone numbers, for instance, you could cut and paste directly from there into this page. You can also, if you look over to the left, you can use these printable PDF or in-person instructions, which will allow a user or a participant to enter your class code into their phone and text it to a specific number, and they can join you rather than you enter them into your class. So it goes both ways. Either way, what will happen when you do so is once the person has been added to your class, whether they joined you or whether you added them, they will get a message similar to what you see there on the left, where thanks so much for joining my class, etc. And it'll tell them that you've been added, and it'll have your name. Okay. So students won't just be secretly snuck into your class. Clients won't just magically appear in your list. They'll get some sort of notification that they have been added. And again, you can do so by directly adding them or sending them the link to join you. All right, so what happens next after you have created a class and added some people? Well, this page that you're seeing right now is what your kind of your home screen would look like once you build a Remind account and have some classes started. You will see over here on the left-hand side, you see, good morning, Anita. That's my account. And you'll see that I own 2 classes. I own LABC Students and LLCC Mondays. All right, so those are the classes that I have created that I am adding students and clients to myself. And I am the owner of those classes where I am the one messaging. But you'll notice down below here, there are also classes joined. So there's a distinction here. And you might notice there that there's a 7th grade language arts class listed in my list. That's my son's class, right? So all of the Remind groups to which my own children belong, or that I might belong to through my church, for instance, they show up in my joined list because they're all under my account. The ones that I own that I'm working with as a professional are the ones that are up above in my owned section. In the free Remind account, you can build up to 10 individual classes. and have groups of students or clients within those classes. So that free Remind account really probably will do everything you need it to do, unless you need more than 10 groups of Remind messaging. The other thing that you see on this page is a list of my conversations. That's where you'll see each of your individual people. You can see some of them have put their profile pictures, or it'll show up with their initials. And I have put a gray box over their private information where you're not seeing their names, but you would see their names there next to their initials. And with Remind, what you're seeing here on the right are the history of all the messages that I have sent to this group of students. In my case, these are students in a class. You can tell by the date that I sent, you can see the message history. And then if I click on an individual student's name, it will show me my individual message history with that person. So what kind of messages, what kind of connections might you make with people through Remind? Well, teachers, for instance, or administrators of a school program might send notice about class cancellations, changes in a schedule, homework assignments, or maybe just simply sending some encouraging messages to absent students or students from whom you have not heard in a while. You probably won't be surprised to hear that many people in this modern world will answer a text when they will not answer a voicemail. They may not even have their voicemail set up. And I imagine that for all of you on this call, that is not a surprise. You've run into that before. So this Remind has a real benefit in that when they receive the message as a text, they will tend to reply to it more easily and quickly, and more often in my experience, than through email or through voicemail. So there's a benefit there. I will tell you though, you might not be a teacher. Maybe you're working on the Title I side and you have clients of several different types that you're working with. Sometimes the messages might be used for, hey, I'm missing this piece of information, or I'm missing this paperwork piece from you, or you have an upcoming appointment that we have. Remind can be used for all of those things. And again, if clients don't have their voicemails set up, Remind kind of bypasses that need and allows you to send messages straight to their text. Again, keeping your personal text number private. Now, I will say before we go on, I just want to make just a quick aside of encouragement to you. As a teacher in an adult ed program, I personally do not have a 100% success rate of reaching my students during this time of quarantine. I have about a 70% rate in my current class, and I'm not satisfied with that. However, I have learned that we have to go a little easy on ourselves as professionals and understand that our clients and our students are under a great deal of strain in some cases, and their priorities have shifted. So I have worked very hard to make connections with my people, but when I haven't reached 100% success, I have said that's okay. I'm still trying. And I have often called rather than texted if I thought that might have an impact. And you may find that's true for some of your people that you're needing to reach as well. You may know that a phone is the best way to get them, a phone call rather than a text. And that's great. We're simply using an understanding of the culture right now that often, especially younger clients and students, they're very text friendly as opposed to phone friendly. So I just throw that out there as a quick encouragement to you, not to be too discouraged if you don't have 100% success. So let's move on to what happens when you are sending messages to people in these classes or these groups that you have built. So it works very similar to an email you might send. You click on compose the message, and you'll notice that it's going to my Lincoln Land Monday class, in this case, my science class that I teach. And I can type my message and hit send right here from within my dashboard. You'll notice over here to the left, I've indicated that there is a 140 character limit when you're sending a message to your entire class. Okay, so in that case, it's a little like Twitter where there's this character limit, character meaning letter, number, or space, okay? So you may have to finesse your message a little bit to get it down to that 140 character, and it will count down for you and show you if you have gone over that limit. I will tell you that there is a way around this if you're thinking, well, I'm going to have to send much longer messages than that. You can copy and paste a message and send it to each individual in your group without having to retype the whole thing. You can type it to one person, copy, and then paste it into each person's individual message. And the individual messages are not limited by character. You can make them as long as you need. So there is a way around that restriction. I do want to point out here too that over on the right, you are allowed to attach files or videos or pictures to your remind messages so that it can be all embedded into one message if you're needing to send something like a document, a PDF, or something to a client. This is a very handy feature. And again, people are used to doing a lot of work through their phones. And so don't be surprised if you're able to send a document as a PDF through a remind message. A client can open that. They could print it, fill it out, take a picture of it, and scan it right back to you. There are lots of options, and Remind can be part of those options for you. Let's say you did send a message to your class or to someone in your class, and you included a link to a website. This is what it will show up like on the other end, right? The person who receives your remind message. You'll notice a couple of things. You'll notice that the link to what I have sent them is right there embedded, and it's a live link. So the student can click it and it will take them directly to where I asked them to go. And then I can tell them a little more about it. You'll notice that's about the length of my message there. The other thing I want to point out is that you'll notice that there is a name. The name of my group showed up right there at the top, LLCC Mondays Anita. I do want to give you a quick hint. When you're building your quote unquote classes or the groups of people at the very beginning, you're setting up that initial process. Do choose names for your classes that make good sense, not just to you, but also to the people who are going to receive them. You want them, when they see a text pop up, to associate that group name with you or with the program that they're in that's affiliated with you, right? So choose your class names wisely, not just again for your own sake, but for your participants' sake, so that they will understand when they see that message, they'll know exactly who it's from. That's just a quick tip for you. So let's talk about participant messaging for just a second. So we've talked about how you can send a message to your whole class. Everybody that's put in one class, you can send messages out to the whole group. Or you can send a message to one individual student by clicking their name and then typing a message to them. You can also control what the participants can do with each other through Remind. And this happens under your Settings tab, which you'll see up here on the right. And here, this will allow you to, under participant messaging, choose the setting that you want participants to do. So if you choose on, that means that everybody who's in your class could message each other back and forth, okay? I have chosen off in that participants can only message me, the class owner, and they don't see anybody else's name or can text anybody else within that group, okay? You have that control as the owner. I don't have a reason to allow my students in my classes to be texting each other. In fact, for privacy purposes, I chose not to allow that. But you may be involved in some way, a group that does need to be able to communicate back and forth. And so in that case, if you choose the on, you can think about it like a giant group text. If you choose to put a bunch of people in the to of your text line and hit send, anybody in that group can reply back to the whole group, or they can reply back to individuals in the group. And Remind will do the exact same thing if you choose that setting. Again, you get to control that. And I will tell you that the default is to off, where it's just you messaging them. And what will happen, just FYI, when you send a group message, one that goes out to your whole class, when someone replies to that text, it only comes to you, okay, if you have this off setting chosen. That works most cases. That's your best option. When you send a group text to everyone, if they reply, it only goes to you. You would have to choose the all participants can message each other option in order to let them message each other. Hopefully that makes sense, but again, we'll have a chance to do some question and answer here in just a second, and we'll touch base and make sure we've got that. Now, here's a couple of other things you want to know about notifications. Under your settings tab that I showed you from the home page, notification preferences is one of your options. You can choose to receive messages from the people in your groups through either your phone as a text or through email or both. And you get to choose that notification preference here under this setting. I personally have them come to my phone as a text because that's easier for me. But people who do not want to be, maybe they anticipate a lot of volume, a lot of people will be messaging them through their Remind, and they don't want that popping up all the time in their text notifications. You can send yours to email only, and then you can choose to check your email at certain times of the day, and then you can see your messages that way. So there's some control here in place that will allow you to manage your life a little bit. The other thing that happens under this notification preference are these office hours. You can let people know that it's too late to message you, okay, or too early, if that is something that you want to do. I personally did not use this setting when I first built my account. And I will tell you that one evening at about midnight, 12:30, I had a text from a very excited student who had just passed a practice test for the GED online, and she wanted to share her great score with me. So she texted me in the middle of the night, and we ended up having a very nice conversation. But I did end up changing my office hours to say maybe midnight is a little too late for me, right? You can also choose the days of the week. If you want Sunday to be your day off from work and you don't want messages, you can shut those notices off and they'll all come to you on Monday instead. So again, those are controls that you have that are up to you, and it's just nice to have those extra and for you to know them. The default will be that there will be no office hours unless you choose to go in and change them. Okay, one more thing about the messaging that I want to touch on very quickly is that you may have a very large group of people in your whole class, but within that class, you may want to build some small groups within that class that you want to be able to communicate with a little differently. So let's say, for instance, that you've put all of your clients from a particular program in one class for Remind. But let's say that within that group, you have 3 different counties or 3 different cities or 3 different age groups or whatever might be the division that you need to make. You can go in and create a group conversation and title it what you want to title it, and then send messages only to those select people from within your class. That will save you the time of having to cut and paste a whole bunch of individual person's messaging, and you can message up to 9 people in a separate group conversation. And again, when you do that, everyone will see your replies and each other's. So it's like creating that smaller group text. The way to do that is very simple. The instructions are here. There's a help center on the remind.com website, but it's very simple. When you click the compose, there's a little, it's hard to see that blue button. It's actually a little piece of paper with a pencil pointing at it. That's the compose message icon. And when you click it, you'll scroll down to the bottom and you'll see a create new option. And when you do that, it will allow you to start clicking individual participant names, up to 9 of them, and then you can create a new group conversation where when you're actively using that group, you're only talking to those people in the group. It can be useful if you have really big classes, really big groups, and you need to message individual parts of that group because they belong to a particular group within your institution. So keep that in mind. It's a nice feature. And again, you only use it if you need to use it, right? So that kind of brings us to the end of our section about Remind, but I want to review a little bit by kind of going over the benefits of what this program can do for you. Aside from the fact that it's free and it's pretty easy to use, let's talk about some of its benefits. This is also a great time to take some questions. If you haven't put your questions about Remind into the chat or question box, feel free to do that. Kirsten will be monitoring that and we'll take some questions. But I also want you to just be thinking through what some of the benefits are and how you might see them being beneficial to your individual role at your institution. Personal connection is really important, if not more so at this point than it ever has been before. And so to be able to communicate directly with people in huge groups or in small numbers or individuals is great. To be able to do so without giving out your private information is great. To be able to control your notifications for how immediately you get those notifications is great. So let's also do, as we look through some of the questions, we're going to take a poll and Kirsten's going to help with that. I'll let you, Kirsten, put up the first poll. We're going to ask what you think your greatest advantage is in using Remind. What do you see as the greatest advantage of using Remind? Maybe it's having that anonymous number from which to send messages, to keep your own personal info quiet. Maybe it's being able to receive messages by either text or email. Maybe the option to message both groups or individuals, or maybe being able to send attachments and links you can think of as being really valuable. You see those options there on the screen. You can click directly into the screen, choose the option that works for you as the greatest advantage. Great, and I'm going to peek through some of these questions real quickly and see what we need to answer for you.
Anita, I have some that I've gone through.
Great, thank you.
Do you want me to go ahead and ask them?
That'd be great, please.
Yeah. Can you create a Remind app on a smartphone? Is this similar to Google Voice?
Yes, Remind does have an app that you can use through your phone. I find personally that it is easier to see some of the settings and notification features when I'm looking at my Remind account on a desktop or on my laptop. But I've used it through my tablet, through my phone, through a desktop. It's friendly, user-friendly on all three of those platforms, yes.
Okay, next question. Do individuals need to download an app to get the notification via text message?
No, the answer is no. In this case, once students join your class, whether you invited them directly or whether you sent them your class code and they joined it, however that happened, they can instantly start receiving your text messages directly into their text features. They will not have to download an app. If the student gave you an email address instead of a personal phone number, they will get their information directly into their email account. No app is necessary on the student's end or the client's end.
Okay, great. After you create a class, can you give permissions to someone else to contact the class, like a member of your team?
Yeah, that's a great question. The answer to that, thankfully, is yes. You can have more than one owner of a class. So if you're the original owner, you can go in and add another person as the owner and they can have the same functions that you do. Yes.
Okay, I am going to, if everyone wants to make sure that they answered the poll, I'm going to stop that because we're not able to see closed captioning for your answers for these questions.
Sure, that's fine. Yeah, close
I'm
that
getting
poll and we'll keep answering the questions as we go.
some comments about that, and I want to make sure that we have the closed captioning up.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Next question. If I send a text message to a group via Remind, can a recipient reply to the entire group or can they only reply to me?
If you've got that default set to no, meaning participants can't see each other in the group, then when they reply to a group message, it'll only come to you. The only way they will see it is if you have intentionally chosen to open those messages up to be group messages. And you would have to do that intentionally. The default is to, they will only reply to you. Yes.
Someone said that they had to step away for a minute and they might have missed this, but does your name come up in the signature or do you have to say, hello, this is so-and-so?
Yeah, so we did cover that very briefly, but it's a good point. The name of the class, whatever you named your class when you created it, that is what shows up at the top or the head of your text. So that's why it's important to name your class something that your clients or your participants will recognize. I always put my name in my class so that my name shows up in there. But you don't have to add it. It will be part of the title of your message, and it's not part of your character limit, which is nice.
Okay, great. Sorry. Does Remind work with Google Voice numbers?
So that is a question that I don't know the answer to. I'll have to look that up and get back to you, Jennifer. I see your name there. I can absolutely look that up and get back to you. I'll send you an email because I don't know the answer.
Can you upload lists or must they be entered one by one?
Mhm. Yeah, you can copy and paste a class list or a client list from a spreadsheet and put it right into Remind rather than entering it one by one. You sure can.
Okay, great. Do you see this working for students in a jail setting?
Unless the students in the jail setting have access to technology of some kind, I would say no. Although I will say if you're communicating with family members of someone who is in a jail setting, perhaps that could work in a Remind, or unless the student has access to email when they're allowed library time, or for instance, something like that, you might want to use their email address instead of a phone number if they have access to email during the week. That's an option. Yeah.
Great. Is there a data messaging cost to participants?
Sure. If they're receiving, if they have a fee for data to receive texts, then your message will come across as a text. So yes, I would say the majority of people, that's not an issue for them because to receive a text doesn't require that much data for them. It does depend on their plan though. So it is something that if a student or a client were to ask you, you could certainly say that yes, whatever fees for data apply in a normal text, this would be the same.
Okay, so is this a secure method of obtaining PII documents from clients? I'm not sure if I'm saying that right.
And I'm not sure either because I don't know what those are. I can speak to security. I will simply say that if sending a PDF or a document through email is considered secure on your end, then there's no difference here because you can send material from Remind from email to email or text to text. But again, it's to your private number. You are the owner of the class. You're the only one receiving those messages. So I would assume so, but I think it's something you could clarify certainly with your supervisor.
Okay. Once you are done with students and or clients, how do you remove the participants? If I have the same class every semester, it could become more than 10 classes in Remind. So how do you cope?
Yeah, so that is a great question. You can archive a class, like kind of put it away and away from your desktop so you're not seeing it if you think you're going to use it again. You can remove students from a class and make an empty shell and then build brand new people back into it the next semester or the next year. So most of the time, I simply delete a class once I'm done with it and then build a new one. But if I am going to keep the same name of the class, you can simply delete the participants, all of them or as many of them as are leaving, and then you can add new ones as you go. I've never run into needing more than 10 classes. Yeah. I will say too, I'm seeing a couple of questions about the whole school district or school association. Remember, one of the options when you're setting up your class is not affiliated with a school. And that is probably what's the simplest and easiest for all of you is to choose. Even my college wasn't listed in there. So not affiliated with a school is the option you want to look for on the create a class page.
We have Mark Burgess said that PII documents is personally identifiable information and all partners must ensure the information is secure. So I think
Mhm.
you answered that, which is great.
Yeah. definitely check with your supervisor about that. You can explain to them what Remind is. It's possible also they may have a statement somewhere on their webpage that states about the security of their platform. And so I would encourage you to check that out with your supervisor.
Great. Can participants
Very
send,
easy to take somebody off the class, by the way. We were just talking about that. It's very simple. You simply click the person's individual name and then you remove them from the class. That's it. So
can participants send attachments?
yes, anybody can send an attachment back and forth. It's very simple. It shows up as a clickable link inside your text.
Can conversations be printed to add to files?
I have never tried to do that. You'll remember the screen where each of my messages shows up in an individual kind of blue text box. You could certainly screenshot those and print them for a history. It might take multiple pages to do it, but yes, I think screenshotting your message history would do that. I don't think there's any way to create to take it out of that visual image of the box. You know what I mean? I think it's going to show up like that box image, but you can certainly screenshot those off a computer and get most of them what you would need.
Okay, this person wants to know if a phone number is invalid for a participant, will it bounce back to the sender?
So that is a wonderful question. No, what has happened to me in the past is if I have put in a number and the name of my student or my client and put their number, it will show me that they have accepted my class or they've been entered into my class. But if they don't, I don't know why. So often you have to do a double check against your client list or your student list and the list of people who are in your Remind and find out where the discrepancies are. So yeah, there is a little bit of legwork there at the beginning to make sure that everybody actually got in, so to speak. Certainly if you have given them your class code and asked them to join themselves, you'll definitely want to do that legwork to see that they all did it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Can a manager be added to all staff and client staff messages?
Can a manager be added? I'm not 100% sure, unless we're thinking again of somebody that if I'm the owner and I want to add another owner to my class so that I can have another person on my staff responsible for my list, yes, you can do that. If that's what's being asked there, the answer is yes.
Okay. Does remind.com track your location, or does the app track your location?
I don't know. I mean, I think, and again, I'm outside of my realm of expertise here, except to say that your phone can track your location all the time unless you've shut that off. So I'm not sure that Remind is doing that itself, other than the phones are doing it. So I've never heard anything about that, so I don't really know.
Yeah, I will say that in my experience with any apps on my phone, if the app does track your location, it will prompt you to allow that. So you can always just click no or click only when you're using that app. So that would be my 2 cents. Anita, if you
Perfect.
don't mind me
Thank you.
jumping in.
No.
And then so parents, you said you had your child, their Remind chat rooms on
Mhm.
your screen as well. So can you, as a parent, submit attached documents to a program director or to an organizer for your child, like, for example, for a summer camp?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. And then how many people can be put into a class? You might have already touched on that.
You know what? I don't think I did, and it's interesting that I don't think I know the answer to that. Um, I've never run into a limit. I'm sure that there is. Um, so give me 1 second and let's see. Are there any more questions?
I do not have any, no.
Okay, I'll see if I can find it real quickly. How about 5,000 participants? I think you're going to be okay. We should be all right. You up to 5,000.
Awesome. Well, that is all the questions that I have. I'm going to go ahead and
Okay,
share the poll results with everyone.
great.
So these were the poll results. You should be able to see the percentages on your screen.
Yeah. Yep. Having that way to connect with people without giving up your own personal cell phone number or personal email is invaluable. We want to be able to stay in touch with people, especially at this time where we're not having a chance to have them in our office or in our classrooms or in our centers. Um, but being able to do so respecting your own privacy is valuable. So yeah, that's what many people see the benefit of using Remind. Wonderful, thank you. Okay. So we'll be ready to move on now. Again, we'll have opportunities for some more questions at the end, but I do want to talk about our second platform, which is Zoom. And you may have some experience using Zoom, but we're going to get into some details here about how you can use Zoom when you're trying to make connections with people. So if you're not familiar, which it seems like Zoom is just in the air right now, right? But it is an online platform for holding virtual meetings. Zoom does have a webinar/conference feature, like to do something that what Kirsten and I are doing with you right now. Zoom does have a webinar feature, but it's a part of their paid service. Most people have the free version of Zoom, though the paid accounts do certainly offer additional features. And that paid webinar account obviously is more expensive because it allows for things like today. But most people can probably do with the free version, although your institution or agency for which you work may have a paid Zoom account. It's worth asking, and then you might be able to use it for professional purposes. But if not, we can get by with the free account, and we'll talk about that here in just a sec. So you may have participated in Zoom, but you may not have ever hosted a Zoom. And for your professional capabilities, that may be important to you. If phone calls are one thing, a Zoom meeting brings that personal connection piece back into the mix, right? When we can't see each other face to face, Zoom will allow you to essentially, quote unquote, FaceTime or Skype, right? Where you can see the other person and communicate with them verbally. That's what Zoom allows you to do. Plus it has some other features too, if you're using it for large groups. So you do want to set up a Zoom account. And I'm not going to take the time to show the videos, but I do want to say that there are plenty of YouTube videos out there. If you just go to YouTube and type in set up a Zoom account, you're going to get a video that'll show you step by step how to do it. It is extremely simple though, and I'll show you what the pages look like here in a sec. But it's very basic. You would set up a free account, you would schedule a meeting, and then you would send the link to your meeting to the participants who are going to attend, and then you hold the meeting. That's literally how simple it is. And so granted, simple, sounds simple, doing might be a little different, right? So let me show you what some of those steps will look like. First things first, if you receive an invitation to a Zoom meeting, it might look something like that on the right. You might open a text message and you'll see that the ALRC is inviting you to a scheduled Zoom meeting. There's the name of the meeting, the date and time, and there's that blue HTTPS link. It's clickable. I can click it and join the meeting from here. Okay, so that's what you'll be looking at as you start thinking about hosting a Zoom meeting. So let's jump in and talk very quickly about how to set up an account. The home page is very simple. When you go to zoom.com, you'll see this. And you'll see over here, there's a sign up, it's free option on the blue button there. And this is what we'll ask you for. It'll ask you for your work email address. And then when you hit sign up, I think you put in your name and possibly your zip. I can't remember. It's very simple, a couple quick steps, and you have your free account. I will tell you again that the cheapest paid Zoom account is $14.99 a month. And again, some institutions and schools and agencies have paid Zoom accounts. What it does is it allows you to have more than one host during a meeting. It takes away the time limit on those meetings, and it allows for a handful of other features in the settings. Really, the biggest difference between the paid account and the free account is the time limit. And you may have heard several things about this. Let me tell you what I know, and then you can also do your own research. But if you're in a free Zoom account and you're doing more people than just a one-to-one conversation, right? So if I have one person talking to one computer or one phone to one phone, unlimited time. But once you add that third person into the mix, the free Zoom account limits you to 40 minutes. Now, there's a workaround for that, first of all. So let me just tell you that right away. Don't let that discourage you if you're thinking, well, I'll never get what I need to do done in 40 minutes. We can work around it in just a sec. But I will tell you that right now, during this time of the pandemic, Zoom has lifted that limited time as a benefit to its free users. And so most people I have talked to, including myself, at the 35-minute mark of a Zoom meeting, there'll be a pop-up box on the owner's page that says something like, your time has been extended, enjoy Zoom, or something like that. I have never once been cut off yet during this time that Zoom has extended. And I don't think there's a deadline of that extension. I think they just basically said during this time of the pandemic, they're removing that 40-minute constraint, okay? I did hear one person tell me, though, that they did get cut off at the 40-minute mark. I'm not sure what the hang up was there. What you can do, though, is there's a way around it. You can simply say to your participants on the Zoom meeting, at the 35-minute mark, we're going to take a break, 5-minute break. When you come back to your device, your computer, your phone, etc., go back to your original invitation and click the link again to rejoin, and everybody gets a new 40 minutes. Okay, so there is a workaround for that time limit. The paid version does not have a time limit. Okay, so we can talk further about that if you guys have questions, but I did want to make sure that you understood that that was the biggest distinction between the free and the paid accounts right now. So once you've built an account in the free Zoom, the very first thing you're going to want to do is set up a meeting. And the nice thing is it's very easy. From your Zoom account, you'll notice over here on the left that one of the options is meetings. When you click that, you will see this page right here in front of you. The meeting can have a topic, right? It can be called My Meeting, right? Or you can call it, staff meeting for Cass County, or whatever it might be. You can put a description, that's optional. You choose the day and the time. The duration, again, that's there, although I will tell you that, again, they've removed the time limit right now, so it's not an issue. You can set recurring meetings. You'll see the button down there to do that if this is something that's going to happen every week. And then once you have created your meeting, there are a couple more options down below this on the screen that I'll show you in just a second. And you hit, create meeting, set meeting. What will happen is you'll be prompted immediately to copy the invitation link, and then you can directly put it into an email or a remind message or some other way that you're going to send it to your participants. So you don't have to retype that link. It can be copied and pasted directly into an email or a remind message. So let's get into some of these particulars. So how would you get started? Well, first things first, and this is spoken as somebody who does a lot of virtual trainings. I've used a lot of platforms like what we're using today, but I still held a practice with Zoom before I held my first one with students, because you just do, right? It's a good idea to do a practice meeting. So I grabbed some of my friends and family members who are at a distance from me right now, and I told them I was going to use their face on a webinar. They agreed. So there they are. We practiced, I played around with things. You definitely will do something basic. You'll open your Zoom account a few minutes before the meeting. You go to your meetings tab and click start the meeting. Then you make sure that your audio and video personally are on, and then you welcome your participants as they enter or as you admit them. The screen that you see on your right is what your screen will look like as you're talking to your people. So what do I mean by as you admit them? So one thing that Zoom allows is that you can have a waiting room where you can individually allow people into the meeting. And by that, I mean you'll see their name pop up on your screen and you click allow or enter. I can't remember what it is, but basically you're bringing them from the waiting room into the meeting. And that just is a safety feature to make sure that you recognize their name, and you can keep somebody in the waiting room if you're not sure who they are. So you see here, these are my people that I was having my Zoom with. I want to do a quick poll, one more here, very quickly, and I want to know how many of you have had a Zoom meeting in the last month. And I'll give you some options here on the poll, and I want you to click right on the screen and choose as many as you apply to you. Who have you had a Zoom meeting with in the last month? I'll give you just a minute to vote, and then Kirsten will show those results. All right.
Okay.
How does it look?
Got a couple more stragglers.
Okay. I want to hold off because we don't have our captioning, so wait just a second.
Okay, it seems to
Great.
be slowed down here. Go ahead and share the results.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll see how many of you have been in Zoom meetings. Great. Okay, so coworkers is the clear advantage. Although family and friends, a lot of you have been meeting with your family and friends this way, which is great. And a couple of you haven't used it at all yet, which is fine. Wonderful. Okay, thank you for sharing those results with us. We'll go back to the PowerPoint now, and I want to show you a handful of things about the visuals of Zoom so that you can understand how it's going to look and what kind of controls you have over that. So you can set your screen to gallery view, which is what you see here on the right, where everybody's box is the same size, and that would take up your whole screen, okay, if you're on a computer or a tablet. Or you can set your screen to active speaker view, which is what you see on the left. That would take up your whole screen. Whoever is talking gets the big pick, and then everybody else's pictures show up in that little view at either along the top or along the side of the larger screen. Or you can set your host picture as the centerpiece if you had a need for that. That active speaker view is really helpful if you're doing, let's say you're holding class on Zoom and the students who are talking are the ones whose face you're seeing. Helps a lot with body language, facial expression, because you can see them bigger. The other reason this view is helpful is when you are sharing your screen in Zoom. Let's say you're putting a Google Doc or a website of some kind up on your screen and everyone is viewing it, then you don't want their pictures to take up too much space. So you make their pictures really little across the top and the document takes the big section in the center. Okay. I will say too, you can grab those boxes of pictures and make that line fatter or skinnier so that you can share more screen for yourself or less. Another thing about this view, if somebody logs in with just their audio but no video, you see over here on the right, you see Wes, his name just shows up. That's because he logged in without his camera at first, and we just see his name. The other thing I want to point out about the visuals is that if you log into a Zoom call through your phone, the controls and the view are a little bit different. What you're seeing on my screen are two screenshots from my laptop. If you log in through your phone, you will see the speaker or the owner of the call, the host of the call. And then if you want to see the gallery view of all the other people, you have to swipe to the left. And when you swipe your phone to the left, then you'll see everybody else's picture. So that's just a quick heads up. But the default view on a phone will be just the one big picture of the host or the speaker. The second thing that I want to tell you about coming in with a phone, if you're joining a Zoom meeting with a phone, and that's the very first time you've done so on a mobile device, you will be prompted to download the Zoom app from the App Store, okay? You only have to do this once, but when you get the message on your phone that says join a meeting, and you see that there on your left, you'll also see download from the App Store. And you click there, it'll take you straight to the App Store where you can download the app. And then the very next thing you'll be prompted to do once the app is installed is to go back and join your meeting through your original link. Okay. Again, this is only the first time someone joins a Zoom meeting from their phone. And so again, it's a very simple process, but it is an extra step. So if you're working with clients or students who are maybe less tech savvy, you might just want to give them a heads up that this is what's going to happen. It's very user friendly on a phone. I've never had trouble joining from a phone, except that, again, you can't see everybody's face on one screen usually. You have to swipe left to be able to see everyone. Let's talk about the control bar just a second. If you're the host, you've created the account, you hosted the meeting, this is what your control bar looks like. There's your mute, and the video, that is the video of yourself. That's like your webcam, so to speak. So that's how you turn your microphone on. That's how you turn your camera on to show your face. The other thing you can do as the host is once you're in the meeting, you can invite somebody, even once the meeting is already happening. You can click that invite button, copy the link to the invite, and text it or email it to somebody right from your device, even in the middle of the meeting. The managing participants, that's pretty basic. That's where you can change their name or allow them to share their screen or something like that. The share screen option is very simple. If you as the host want to share your screen, you simply click share screen, and then a box will pop up and it'll allow you to share maybe your browser, your Chrome browser, or you want to share this app, or you want to share this video. You click the option and you hit share, and it will then flip your view so that your screen becomes what everybody sees. One quick note about screen sharing: if you're going to share something on your screen like a video that has audio playing, when you go to that share option, a box will pop up, and one of the things down in the very left-hand corner of the box will be enable the audio. And once you click that button and hit share, then you'll be able to play a video with audio working. Okay, so just a quick heads up about that. You can record a Zoom meeting if you need to, even in the free version. The chat room is available, just like you can ask questions on this webinar platform. You can ask questions through the chat. Let's say somebody has joined a Zoom meeting, but they have a crying baby on their lap. And so they've muted themselves, but they still want to participate through the chat. Everybody can see that. And then the other thing here are the breakout rooms. And I want to touch base with the breakout rooms very quickly. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but some of you may find this beneficial if you would normally host an event or a meeting at your site in person, and you would put people into groups to do work or to have smaller group meetings. You can do that through Zoom. In your settings, in your original Zoom account page, if you go to the settings page, there is in meeting basic and in meeting advanced that you should see there on the right hand side. And you can, within that advanced setting, choose to allow breakout rooms. Okay. And what that will do is literally what will happen is everybody's in the Zoom meeting. And when you enable those breakout rooms, you can either let the system randomly put people in a room. You can say 3 to a room or 4 to a room. You can set that, or you can assign them to individual rooms yourself. And once you hit go, those people will stop seeing the whole group on their screen, and they will only see now the people in the group that you have put them in. They will only be able to chat with the people that you have put them in. Until you end those breakout rooms as the host, everyone will be in their separate quote unquote rooms without having moved physically. They will have virtually been sucked out of the big room and put into their breakout rooms. Okay. I've tried this a couple of times live to make sure that that's not glitchy or has problems. The nice thing about it is once you put people in your breakout rooms, the host, you can move from room to room and join each room to listen in, observe, participate, and then you can leave a room and go to the next room and see where people need you, for instance. People in breakout rooms can even request that you come visit them in their breakout room if you're the host and have information that they need. Okay, so there's a great functionality to these breakout rooms that will help replicate some of that small group work that happens in a physical face-to-face training or meeting. If you don't have use for it, let it go, right? Don't worry about it. But if you do need the breakout rooms, they are available and they are fairly seamless to use. Both you and the participants will get prompts on your screen to either join or leave breakout rooms. Now, one thing I want to mention just very quickly, because you may have heard about it in the news, is this issue of Zoom bombing. You've heard of photo bombing, where somebody jumps in behind your picture and gets in your pic, right? Zoom bombing, the idea is there are some very creative, bored, apparently, people who have time on their hands who are jumping around and trying to jump in on other people's Zoom meetings uninvited. There are a couple ways around this that's pretty simple that you'll definitely want to institute. First things first, don't post your invitation to your meeting on a public web page or anything like that. Don't make the link to your meeting available publicly. Only send the link to your meeting through email or remind or text or however you want to do it from you to the person that you want to join. Okay, don't post it. That's step number one. Step number two, this is where we were scheduling our meeting earlier, and I said there were other options down below. Here's the down below. You can require a meeting password. When the person you've invited gets the link to click and join, they will also get a password in that invite that they will have to type in when they try to join your meeting. That's just another safety feature. And then the third safety feature down here is under these meeting options. I mentioned earlier, you can enable the waiting room. That is where people have to wait in that holding space, that virtual holding space, and you have to click accept or invite before they can get into your actual room. And if you don't recognize their name, you don't let them in, right? So there are ways around this. There are also options for in your advanced settings, you can allow users on your meeting, participants, to share their own screen, or you can disable that option, whereas you're the only one who can share the screen. And that may be an option that you want to jump in. So I just wanted to mention that. Zoom has made some steps towards making their platform secure because of those occasional opportunities people have taken to mess around with the safety and security. I've never had an issue. I've never heard of anyone having an issue. So hopefully you'll feel comfortable using those steps. And lastly, Zoom has a wonderful support system online. Support.zoom.us. That's where you go. Support.zoom.us. You can see it right here where that yellow arrow is pointing. You go to that site and ask any question, and you can find a video that will walk you through it. You can also just go to Google or any search engine and type in, how do I start a Zoom meeting? Or how do I use breakout rooms in Zoom, or whatever your question is, and you'll find tons of resources. So be resourceful yourself. If you have a question, go out there on the web and look for the answer. And I bet you can find a video or a help page that will get you through. But I would be glad to give you that support as well. But I think you'll find it available online for almost everything you could want to know about Zoom. So the last thing I want to touch base real quick is just as we wrap up, just to remember that our goal here from today is to learn to make good connections with clients and students, and at the same time continue to do our own work very effectively. Hopefully both of these platforms will allow you to do that. You can see the advantages of Remind that we talked through. I hope you can see the advantages of Zoom. Certainly, I can tell you that having Zoom meetings live with people where you can see their face, see their facial expressions, hear their voice, it's not the same as being face-to-face, but boy, it's better than an email. You can change your tone without worrying that it's going to be misinterpreted, etc. So it's valuable. I'd like you to just think through these platforms. It might be an individual thought process for you, or it may be one you want to take back to your team. How could you implement these platforms if you haven't already? What challenges might you encounter that you need to think through? And how could you troubleshoot around those? So I just would encourage you to be thinking that way And again, whether it's with yourself or with your team, it's valuable. So let's see if you've got questions about that are specific to Zoom. And I will say, not just for time's sake, but also because they have a great support system out there on the web. I might not answer every single one of these questions live, but let's see if there's some that we think would be really valuable to make sure that we answer. So give me just a second. And Kirsten, if you've got questions that you saw in there that you want to share, that would be great.
I did have a comment that might be useful to everyone. Someone commented that they were using Zoom yesterday and they received the message that their time would be ending, but their host was able to extend it without people having to log back in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've only heard from one teacher who got cut off in her meeting and had to come back in. Everybody else has been getting the extension because Zoom, again, not in general, but because of the pandemic, they have removed that time limit for people. Free Zoom does have the change background option, yes.
Someone
The share
asked,
screen button, I will say the share screen button shows up when you're the host. If you have disabled the option for every participant on the call to share their screen, your people won't see that option on their Zoom bar. So you will see it if you're the host. They will only see it if you have allowed participants to share their screen.
I had someone ask, what's the difference between clicking on a link to join a Zoom meeting and just going to Zoom and entering the ID number?
There's no difference except that clicking the link eliminates the possibility of accidentally typing something wrong, right? So it's just simpler to be able to send somebody an email or a text with a clickable link. Yeah. More than one host can move between the breakout rooms in a paid version. I think in the free version, you're limited to only one host moving in the breakout rooms. In the paid version, you can have multiple hosts. Yes, someone can be removed from a Zoom meeting, absolutely. As the host, you can dismiss them under the Manage Participants link. I don't think Zoom has closed captioning. I will have to check into that though. I'm not sure. I've never seen that option in any of the settings, but I will look.
I do
Send you guys an
believe
email.
I do believe that they do have closed captioning, but you have to pay for that.
Okay, part of the paid service. Okay, great. Thank you. Remember, you can join a Zoom meeting just through a phone without video. That's fine, where you're just going to hear the person's audio. Yeah, good. I don't see any other questions. Do you, Kirsten?
Someone asked, can Zoom be connected to Facebook Live? And I'm not sure of that answer.
So they're not owned by the same company, so I don't know about the compatibility. I would have to look into that. I'm not sure. I've never heard of anyone doing that. Yeah. I think that takes us to the end of our time. Again, if anybody has asked a question that needs an answer, I will try to email you directly from the report that we have at the end here. I just do want to say again that Kirsten's agency, my agency, everybody is here for support. So one thing I can offer you, particularly on the adult ed side, but again, anybody who is in our partners, the excellenceinadulted.com website has some great distance learning and distance education resources. The page excellenceinadulted.com looks like this homepage, and you'll see that there is a new distance learning resources tab on the homepage that you can click, and there are plenty of things like archived webinars and discussion boards and resource lists, and hopefully things that would be useful to you would be there. So please avail yourself of that. And again, that's what you'll see there. The webinars, they are all archived, and it'll say very clearly what it is and where, what it's about, and you can see if it's relevant to you. And I put my name and email here on the screen. Um, as part of the Adult Education Professional Development Network, my job is to train. So anything you have need of, I can hopefully help you or get you to someone who can help. So please feel free to jot my contact info down there and reach out if I can do anything to support you. I really, really sympathize with the struggles that you might be having professionally right now, and just want to encourage you to try one or both of these platforms. If you haven't already, try some of the strategies for using them, and hopefully the connections that you're making with your clients and students will be even stronger than they are now, which is our goal. So thanks for joining us today. I appreciate all of you giving us your time.
Yes, thank you, Anita, and thank you every one of our attendees for attending today's webinar. Just a couple reminders. You will receive a survey asking you about today's webinar. Please share with us your experience and any suggestions or comments or concerns you might have to improve these Wednesday webinars. And then you can also access this recorded webinar with the closed captioning and the presentation slides via our website or the Illinois WorkNet website as well. All right, thank you everyone for joining us and have a great day.